It's a beautiful sunny morning this morning and I'm headed to take a train. The question for this week's video is, did you ever find a colour that gets stuck in your head for so long that you can just not ignore it? You just need to thinking about it all the time. Well, I do. So this week's video, I'm going to talk to you about a colour that's been with me lately, and we're going to go on a bit of an exploration together. A bit of a trip, like the trip I'm about to go on now. It's a metaphor. No. Don't be dumb, Jules. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Peace. So I thought what we could do is I could show you what I've been thinking about this colour and how I've been exploring this colour so far, and maybe do a little bit of exploration together just to get a feeling for this. I mean, funnily enough, from my pressed flower video, this sketchbook cover is a little bit greener in person than it is on camera, and it's kind of almost the perfect seafoam aquamarine colour. But here are a few of the watercolour mixes that I was trying, mixing like phthalo green or viridian or even some blues, cobalt teal, with buff titanium and titanium grey as well as white as well, just trying that out, just to see what range of colours we could get with this. And can I just say, this page makes me so happy. Like, I absolutely love this. And look at this, like, it's super subtle colour that you get mixing Green Earth and Roman Szmal's Misty Morning as well. So this has been like just the most serotonin providing time ever to make this, and I have a few more ideas as well, so we can go through those in a little bit. But for what I thought we'd do first is I've collected together a few things which I think are within this colour family, and I thought we could swatch them out together. So I've just got them off camera. Here is a few, rolling away. Here's a few of the things which I picked up from my personal collection of art supplies, which is a little bit chaotic, which I think would fit this colour. So yeah, let's get on to some swatching. And I don't plan to be tidy with this at all. So first up, I have a couple of these oil pastels. I've got like a pale blue kind of colour, and I've spoken about this before, about my opinion on the dichotomy between turquoise blue and turquoise green, and I said at the time that I fell more on the turquoise blue side, and I still do love this colour, but this colour that I have in mind right now is much more of a green shade than that I was referring to previously, and so I've also brought in this pale green colour. And I figured maybe we could just see, because yeah, I'm really loving that right now. So I've got like a variety of things, and I guess this kind of like, these shapes kind of remind me of seaweed or something. So I guess we're just kind of messing around, making like a little bit of an abstract layout here, just to get a feeling for these colours that we have at our disposal. So because this might take a while to dry, I also have this acrylic gouache from Holbein in Pale Aqua, which I think would be also pretty good. So I've got a little brush here that was apparently full of green paint, but that's just life, isn't it? So I'll just squeeze some straight onto the brush. And you can see I'm using this square brush, super cheap, like a school grade brush, but I like sometimes the marks you can get with it. It's sort of like dry brushing texture. So really it's just about playing and seeing what we can get out of these materials and what colours we like. Because also when you're sort of designing a colour scheme, it's important not to only think about the one colour that you like the most, but also the adjacent colours, so the analogous colours, and then also some complementary colours, because those are really what make it pop, your chosen sort of hero colour, if you like. So also on the green side, I have this light phthalo green polychromos colour pencil. And I guess we'll just use a few more of these shapes. I think this is probably the greenest thing I have, so I'll put it on this side. I'm really enjoying making these sort of like loose leafy shapes. And we can just like colour in a little bit. I'm shaking my table, but I don't think it's shaking the camera because the camera's not attached to the table. The realities of the at-home art practice. But it's so, I find it so relaxing and so joyful just to like play around with colours and look at the differences and similarities and work out what you like best. And then I also have this brush pen. It's just a koi colouring brush pen, as you can see. Picked up this ages ago for my sketchbook stuff. Oh, it's a little bit bluer than I was expecting. But you can get like a different range of marks again with this, and it's sort of it layers really nicely over itself. Also, this is just like regular mixed media paper, kind of smooth. I think it's the Canson Imagine brand. And I really like it just for playing around on. But you can see when I make these sort of marks, you get this transparency effect where they overlap. I really am into that right now. And it's one thing that I really like about watercolours is the ability to get that kind of effect if you use really transparent pigments. Just make this a little bit less even at the top. And I'm already loving these colours, by the way. So, and then I've got like another colour pencil, this Caran d'Ache Pablo, so they're like lower end, below the luminance colour pencil range, and it's in turquoise green, which is so nice. And these pencils are quite nice to use, by the way, if you don't have the budget for the luminance. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend the Pablos. They're just like a little bit less soft and waxy. And speaking of the luminance, I have this one. This is Watercolour Blue, number 671. Another one which I've used before. Maybe we'll put this one up here because it's more blue. Maybe we can get like some of these shapes in. Sort of. It really does feel very seaweed, doesn't it? I think of the sea when with this colour. I mean, it's cliche. It's predictable, put it that way. Just because, you know, the ocean is this colour in summer. So nice. Maybe I've just got a craving to go to the sea. This is so nice. Yeah, loving these shapes and this, the movement in this. And what else do I have? Maybe we can go for something with a little bit more coverage next. So I have this turquoise green Neocolor 2 crayon that I definitely used in a previous video. But these give you a different mark again. Maybe this would go over the gouache. It's not quite dry, but you can get these like, I'm enjoying these little spirally lines. Just giving a bit of dimension when you have overlapping textures. So satisfying putting these lines in. Just make some more branches off of this. Sorry, got lost in the sauce there for a second. It's a very, like I say, it's a very meditative process to do this. I know it looks like I'm just making a mess, but really I'm really loving all of these textures. I think that we could probably do something over here as well. I'm getting the feeling for which materials are in which side of the colour family and what you like best. I mean, maybe we could even try putting, I know coloured pencil doesn't go great over oil pastel, but maybe it would go through. Just making these shapes, like I think we've got like a bubble forming here. And at least with coloured pencils you don't have to worry about clogging them because they don't have ink. Whereas with pens and stuff, it's like oil pastels can really kill them. And then on the blue side again, I've got my Polychromos light cobalt turquoise, temporarily tongue-tied. Story of my life. My table's a bit wobbly today. Don't know why, but you know, sometimes I'm a bit wobbly too. So we can just like make some expressive marks like this. It's interesting that I've gone this way with the like curved lines because in my head, like I have a painting or two of like an abstract watercolor style, which are more about like overlapping pebble shapes, basically, which is what I think I'm going to experiment with next when we get into the paints. But I think it's just like these dry materials. What if we blend this in? Ooh. Oh, that's fun. Having like a transition. Would never have thought to do that before. Just to lift this crumb off the surface. That looks so cool. And then I don't really know what else we want to add. For a little bit of a darker colour, I have this gel pen from, it's a Jelly Roll gel pen. I don't remember what they call this colour. It's like blue-green or something. But yeah, it's maybe a little bit more green, but maybe it would just add. Oh yeah, it's so juicy. And because it's the Moonlight version, you can use it on dark paper as well, and it comes out really well. But I think this is actually adding like a nice bit of contrast. And you can see where I went over the oil pastel there. Didn't handle that so well. To be expected. We can make some other shapes with this. Maybe just emphasize some of these edges we have. Just doodling around, seeing what we think. Go back over here and redo this line. Now it's working a lot better. Oh yeah. Get this line going all the way around. We just do a spiral at the end. That's nice, isn't it? And sometimes you find these ideas while you're just playing around with your materials. I know a lot of the big, big art YouTubers out there emphasize the importance of play, but I feel like sometimes when you sit down to make art, you can end up taking yourself maybe a little bit too seriously, you know? Like you start playing and then you think, oh no, this is stupid. I should use my time more productively, you know, go and do the dishes or walk the dog or something. But really, it's important for us, I think. So I'm really enjoying this. I don't know. So some of these materials are water soluble. So I don't know, maybe we could play with that somehow. What if we just like added a little bit of water to this sort of area? Just blur out the edge of these coily strands, and these are a bit messy anyway, so maybe it pushes them back a little bit, makes them look a bit blurry, and then they can come back into the foreground. The acrylic wash won't reactivate, which is nice. But I like that. And then obviously the oil pastel resists water, but I know that the koi watercolor pens as well are water soluble. So maybe we can start just like blending over, getting some kind of resist effect from the oil pastel. And you can see how you just find so many different effects just from playing around. And I don't know if I would use all of these for like a quote unquote finished painting or whatever, but I think it's good for your brain to just play around and see where your materials can take you. This gel pen also dissolving with the water. That's okay. Yeah. Maybe I won't do too much more to this, but this is definitely giving me a feeling for the colours that I have currently available to me. And then what I really enjoy is like these sort of in the middle colours. So not as muted as the acrylic wash, which is, I don't know whether it's just because my brush was a bit dirty, but it seems like a little bit less vibrant. I prefer the more vibrant turquoises. And I prefer this sort of like more greenish turquoise right now in the sort of in the middle, and maybe incorporating some of these greens as compared to the more blue shapes. And I'm obviously really enjoying, when it comes to mark making, I'm enjoying these sort of branching vein-like motion that you can get with lines. So maybe that's something also that I would look to incorporate into a painting, which I can play around with. But it's so fun to just sit down and play with the supplies. So I'm going to do a little bit more color mixing, and I'll bring you along for that as well. But so playing around with my favorites from these and seeing what we can expand upon a little bit more based on the sort of base colors and the effects that they're giving. Thanks for joining me for this play session. Anyway, hope you, maybe this inspires you to go and play with your materials a little bit more, make a mess, you know, get some cheap paper and just chuck stuff around. But let's see what we can make of this next, shall we? Okay, so colour mixing. So this is the page that I showed briefly before. I added a couple of labels since. But yeah, so this is the page that I've been using to test out some potential seafoam aquamarine-ish mixes. And as you can see, I've been experimenting with mixing my blue and blue-green colours with some more pastel tones, including buff titanium. And then this Aquarius grey as well. And what I learned from doing these mixes, so I did these as a preliminary thing, I learned that I think that I prefer the mixes with the buff titanium because I want to lean towards a more green colour in my final mixture, which means that the grey is less warm and doesn't get you there, whereas the sort of more yellowish tone of the buff titanium will take you more into that green realm. I also tried mixing with just some titanium white. The mixes are nice. They're nice pastels, but they're not really hitting the spot. One other thing that I was really intrigued by were these mixes down here at the bottom, which were the Green Earth and the Misty Morning, and Lavender and Viridian. And this Lavender and Viridian is really very interesting indeed. So I wanted to experiment with mixing some other colours somewhat like this. So I'm going to do this on the next page. I also remembered from my nickel titanate yellow mixing video, which I might remember to link in the cards, otherwise look for it on my channel if you're interested in that, that the nickel titanate yellow also mixed to make some really interesting sort of aquamarine shades, especially with the cobalt turquoise. So maybe we'll try some of those out. So when I do these mixes, I just mix straight on the page. Effectively, I don't mix them on a palette separately. I just put both colours down, mix them together on the page and see how they interact. So I've got like a little list off to the side of mixes that I wanted to try in view of my experiments. And the first one is, in comparison to the Viridian and the lavender, I wanted to do phthalo green and lavender, which seems like an unlikely combination. And phthalo green and I, you know, we have a complicated relationship, but I have a feeling that with the soft purple, we might get something really interesting here. Oh, the lavender's pushing it. This lavender is such a pushy colour. But you see here in the middle, you get these amazing turquoises. I really love lavender. I need to get a tube of lavender. I'm planning to take another art store trip soon, and I think I am going to buy myself a tube, maybe of the Rembrandt lavender or the Van Gogh one, not sure. Just because I'd love to be able to put it in, you know, a travel palette or something. Let me just add a little bit more lavender over here. Yeah, so the phthalo green is obviously a very strong pigment, but with a little bit of finagling, we can mix these lovely turquoisey colours in the middle. Also, this sketchbook is just like a super affordable, I think I got it from Jackson's, but it's just an own brand watercolor sketchbook. So the paper's pretty thin and it does not necessarily handle water the most amazingly, but it does the purpose for this. And it makes me feel very, very non-precious about it, which is the main thing, I guess, for this context. And the next color mixture I wanted to do, you can see I'm just so messy with this. The next colour mixture I wanted to try was the phthalo green with the misty morning, because I think this is like just a little bit pinker and a little bit more muted than the, also quite pushy, than the lavender. It's also lower tinting, but I can already see that we're getting some wonderful colours here. Get some more of that. But this misty morning is a mixture of pigments, so I think that it could produce some really interesting separation as well. But maybe just like a more muted kind of aquamarine. Yeah, I like that. That's amazing. Oh. Yeah. I don't know if that's coming across on camera, but it's a very, very interesting mixture. Maybe not my perfect seafoam. I think this brighter colour might be more reminiscent of what I was looking for, but this one is also very nice. So up next, I wanted to mix cobalt turquoise, if I can find it. Oh yeah, there it is. I've got all of my paints off to the side. I've sort of separated my paints out into separate palettes recently, one of which I filmed a video for my spring watercolour palette. So now my paints are a little bit all over the place, but that's okay. Let's just get some of this cobalt turquoise down, and I wanted to mix it with, I tried mixing it with a buff titanium, all tongue-tied, but it didn't produce like the most clean mixture. It was a little bit more muted, and I was interested to see what we could get with the nickel titanate yellow. It might produce like a brighter blue-green. And I think on the blue side, maybe just like a tiny tad of it might produce something interesting. So this is definitely too green, but this over here might be working for me. The camera's focusing. I zoomed you in with the hope that it would. Okay, so, and then I was enjoying the mixes with the buff titanium. I tried the cobalt sea blue with the buff titanium, which is a little bit bluer than the cobalt teal. So I wanted to try the cobalt teal because it's greener. Maybe it would carry, and a little bit more vibrant, maybe it would carry the buff titanium a little bit better. Because as much as I love the buff titanium, but it is a little bit more muted than the nickel titanate yellow, or just plain white. Yeah, I like that. This color over here on the paler end. Oh yeah. Oh, that's good. See, these are all the same family of colors, just made in very different ways, and maybe through means that you might not expect, I guess. And then I wanted to do a couple of other experiments using phthalo turquoise, so PB16, which is a very bright blue, definitely more on the turquoise side of blue, but blue nonetheless. So for this one, we want to compensate for the blueness by adding more yellow. to get our green. So I'll try with the nickel titanate yellow, though I have a hunch this is going to make like a neon green. I don't know. In a lighter wash that could work. It's interesting as well because the nickel titanate yellow is a little bit more transparent. This is a beautiful turquoise. I don't think it's quite what I'm looking for, but I'm enjoying looking at it. And then secondarily, I wanted to try it instead with the buff titanium, like the one above it. Sorry if there's a little bit of changing lighting in this video. We're experiencing very spring weather at the moment. The sun is in and out all the time, and I can't control for that, unfortunately. So let's see, what do we get when we mix this? Need a bit more of the buff titanium. I'm trying to keep my concentration of the phthalo turquoise relatively low, just because I know it will overpower things, though I have found PB16 to sometimes be a little bit less dominant. Yeah, this is lovely over here. Definitely more on the blue side, but I do enjoy it a lot actually. See, this is just takes over completely. I'll just add a little bit more buff titanium. But as you can see, this paper, it takes a lot of abuse basically, because I'm scrubbing away here to mix these colours. It seems to be working really well. So this is kind of where we're at right now. I did enjoy the Viridian with the lavender. This is a nice mixture, but I think it might be a little bit too muted. But maybe we could try something different. So what if we tried mixing with the nickel titanate yellow, but using a more blue, if that makes any sense? So what if we used like the cobalt cerulean blue? What would that do? Because it's a little bit more of a warmer blue. Excuse my slightly narrow swatches at the bottom now. The joy of this sketchbook to me is that I just use it to record colour mixes, and it doesn't actually matter at all what it looks like. Because I'm trying to work out how to mix with this nickel titanate yellow to get my perfect sort of pastel-y aquamarine green. This is looking really good actually. I know I sound like I've said that 1,000 times this video, but what can I say? They're all beautiful colours. But I think that this is the closest yet. This is the closest yet. What happens if we mix the... So this works because this is greener. So what happens if I mix the cobalt sea blue, which is a bit bluer? It's a PB28, like cobalt blue, but obviously treated a different way. Wow, stunning colour. Everyone loves the turquoise. But could we make it maybe a little bit more muted? No, that's vibrant. That's vibrant as hell. This is like a neon lime green. Who would have thought? That's amazing. Absolutely no, but absolutely not the colour that we're looking for. But it is stunning. Wow, that's incredible. I absolutely love that, but maybe for like a parrot or something, not for my idea of a sort of aquamarine scene. So I think what I might do now is, I hope you enjoyed this. I think I might explore a little bit more the colour combinations that we could use, and like to really set off this aquamarine. And I think I'll use this cobalt teal and buff titanium mixture as like my main comparison. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a piece of watercolour paper with this mixture, and then I'm going to cut it up into squares and use it to compare against a background of other colours that might go well with it, and we'll explore some colour combinations in that way. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll be right back and we can have a look at those colour combinations. Okay, so I'm back. These stupid flies, houseplants, they're a curse. Anyway, I'm back. So what I did off camera just now was I mixed up a bunch of this mixture, my favorite one with the cobalt teal and the buff titanium, and I painted it over a large area, and then I cut it up into little tiles. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 6 little tiles, and I figured that we could work together and see what colours might go well with this colour, because it's quite interesting. You see this in the context of the colours mixed together, but for example, by itself, you can really see how delicate and beautiful this is, especially because of the granulation of the cobalt teal. But instead of doing that with paint, I thought maybe we could use oil pastels and come up with a bit of a fun composition. So I have no focus. So I have this piece of paper here. It's just an A5 mixed media piece of paper, and I figured we could use my oil pastel collection and try out a few different combinations of colours, and then stick these little pieces on top, you see. So we can have a layout a bit like this. They're not all the same size because I didn't measure them and I didn't want them to be the same size anyway. But oh, this colour, oh, it's perfect. Sea glass. So starting with this one here, I figured what would happen if we used some kind of brown, maybe like an earthy brown. So this is the Sennelier Mars Orange, I believe. Mars Orange? I don't know, who knows the, oh yeah, Mars Orange. Because I figured that when you want to find colours which go well with other colours, it's good to look at the complementary and analogous tones, right? So the opposite of blue is orange, and the opposite of green is red. So I figure that the opposite colour of this particular sea glass colour I've created, it's probably going to be somewhere within the orange to red kind of zone. So what would happen if we use this Mars Orange and then maybe like a purple? That could be like quite triadic, couldn't it? So what about this like burgundy? Yeah. So this is quite a bright colour. Love these colours together, by the way, already. And then just to see how they look, we can just pop this. We can just pop this tile back on top and we can see precisely how well they would go together, which is pretty good if you ask me. Maybe I'll just expand out my little doodle of the orange. I love these shapes as well. So here's our first idea for colour combinations, the burnt orange and the magenta. So working on this second one, I figure why not go for those analogous tones that I was talking about before. So in the swatching earlier, I used this light green colour, which I love, and is just a little bit greener than this colour that we've mixed together today, which I think is great. And then we could go for perhaps a deeper blue. How about like an ultramarine blue? And if you didn't see my previous oil pastel colour theory video, these are just my collection of very affordable oil pastels that I use to mess around and look at colours with, just because they're so satisfying. And you can see that this colour could almost be on the scale between those two colours. So you have the greener side and the bluer side, and then the aquamarine colour is in the middle. So speaking of opposite colours, why don't we try a bright red orange? I think that would be great. So you can see, wow, that's a incredibly vibrant colour. What if I put a little bit on both sides? Try out different shapes as well. And then we could go for like a salmon pink colour, which is just like a lighter version of that colour. So it's just like you added a bit of white to it. So we can just add like a little bit for variety. And what would that look like next to our aquamarine? And so you can see, even from these 3 colours alone, we've got such a lot of variety. See, this colour combination here is so high contrast, but it absolutely makes the best of that blue-green colour pop against the red-orange. So now working on the second row, we didn't try yellow yet. I'm thinking, what if we tried a very pastel yellow? So I've got this one here. It looks a little bit dirty though, so I'm going to just clean it off. So you can barely see. Very pale yellow. Just lay down a good bunch of that. And to go with this light yellow, we could go with, we'd almost go for almost like a primary triad. Like, what if we went for a bright red? I reckon this would be quite fun. Love this mark making too, and watching the colours blend in the middle. I mean, obviously when you put the little square on top, you don't get to see it. This could be like a flower or something, couldn't it? But the way that these 2 colours work together is quite different to the orange and the pink. Sure, the red still contrasts with the aquamarine a lot, but then the yellow sort of softens it and gives it a basis. Because the salmon pink in the other combination also contrasts the green blue quite a lot. Okay, I've got a craving for purple. I don't think I have quite the purple I'd like to use, but maybe we can approximate. So I'll use this purple. It's not quite as red as I'd like. I'd really like a perylene violet kind of colour, if you're familiar. But this is a little bit brighter. But this is sort of going the other way on the analogous scale. So we've gone through green, through blue, into purple. And since we want to go analogous, maybe I'll also include a second blue. And maybe I'll go for, so just looking off camera, maybe we'll go for this cobalt blue, which is a little bit greener and brighter than the ultramarine we used above. Wonderful blend. I do love oil pastels. One day I'll actually do some work with them. And then again we can just put our little square on top and see how that looks. So in this case you've got analogous tones again, but in the more warm direction. So before we just went green and blue, so that's kind of either side. But this is really going the other way, so into blue and then to purple. And then finally, for this corner, I wasn't quite done, I don't think, checking out this the combination with this Mars orange. So maybe we can get like a nice ring of that going. But then instead of going for the magenta this time, I might once again go for that ultramarine blue. Because this colour is almost like a burnt sienna colour, and I think a lot of people know that if you mix ultramarine blue with burnt sienna, you can get a lot of nice neutral colours. But I feel like since these colours are basically complements of each other anyway, sorry for the focus, I'll show you a close-up in a second, then maybe it would create an interesting contrast against our blue-green that would go right here. Maybe we'll put this a little bit to the side. Then, oh, it's nice, they're like little explosions, aren't they? How fun. Yeah, so you can see that having the blue instead of the magenta really adds a different character to the combination. I think I prefer this over the magenta, but that's probably just me and my affinity for ultramarine. But I really love these 3 colours together. I can see them making an excellent colour scheme for a piece. So there we have it. Today we explored supplies that existed in this colour that I had in my head. I showed you how I approach mixing colours and identifying which colours will produce the colours that I want. And then I've also shown you a little bit of like a brainstorming process where I look for colours which may or may not complement the colour that I have in my head, and therefore would make a nice combination of colours for a piece or a series of pieces, or just like an illustration if you're working on something simple, or just for your sketchbook, you know? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you also love this Seafoam colour as much as I do, if you think that this colour that I've mixed is the colour that you would have in your head when you think of that colour. I really had a blast making this today, so yeah. Please like the video if you liked it, obviously. Please subscribe if you enjoy these kind of random videos that come straight from my head and a camera that doesn't focus. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week, and don't forget to go and play with some colour. Bye everybody.